Rishi Sunak was under fire after weeks of devastating flooding across England. I'm going to read into this from The Guardian, guys, but we'll also be looking at one or two things from Byline Times and the BBC as well. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here with an article from The Guardian with the headline that Rishi Sunak is under fire after a week of devastating flooding across England. The PM insists government is responding as some residents are told to expect 5 more days of misery and colder weather. This article was issued on Friday the 5th of January, just for reference, so it has been a couple of days since, and I wanted to cover the floodings, and I know there's one or two other stories as well, and I'll try and get to them as quickly as I can. But this one really did grind my gears, and I wanted to make sure that before I did a video, I had the necessary responses to it, you guys. So first and foremost, let me show you something. This was from Byline Times back in the 15th of November. Nearly 6 million homes at risk of flooding as Rishi Sunak cuts food, flood protection schemes as the UK experienced more extreme weather. Spending watchdogs criticised the government's cuts, reports Dave Hackett. This was the 15th of November. And the warning signs were already there. The warning signs were there basically. A report says here in February 2022 the country experienced three named storms in 1 week for the first time. So the warnings were already there before we even got to this. So that's the first thing. Now, I am going to be burying Labour 6 feet under later on in this video as well. While even though they are not directly responsible for this flooding, they also have to take their responsibilities for past floodings, which I'm going to share with you why as well. So what's my first initial thoughts on this flooding? This is, we've talked so many times about the failures of the Conservative government. This is just why? Why are people being ignored here? These are people's homes, these are people's communities, and lives are consistently devastated by these floodings. And where is the support? Where is the help to ensure that not just that the protections are in place, but the defences are there to stop them happening in the first place? Now, the last 13 years, my understanding is that a lot of these, that there's been a lot of cost cutting, that they have not been upgrading the defences and resources have been pouring enough resources have been pouring over the last 13 years under the Conservatives, which is what led to them getting even worse, which is even more devastating for these people. So what is being done now? Rishi Sunak obviously saying that he's responding. Well, the worst part is that he wasn't actually in the fire, actually, seeing the actual people whose lives have been destroyed as a result of this. And there's a wider scheme, there's a wider problem here, which I'm going to go into later on. But this is just once again another abject failure of the government and its roles and responsibilities to look after the people. So last swathes of England ended the week devastated by floods, floodwater as rivers reached record highs, provoking a bitter political row over the funding for the country's most vulnerable areas. Labour have accused Rishi Sunak of being asleep at the wheel over flood warnings at the end of the week, in which at least 1,000 properties were flooded and some villages were totally cut off, with parts of Nottinghamshire, Shropshire, Gloucestershire and Wiltshire worst affected. The Environment Agency, EA, in England blamed the floods on the climate crisis, as it advised people in flood risk areas to turn off the gas, water and electricity supplies, take possessions upstairs and move family, pets and cars to safety. Though the rain is forecast to subside over the weekend, temperatures are likely to plummet, causing more misery for those trying to clean up their homes and businesses after the deluge. Flood resource residents were warned to brace themselves for 5 more days of misery because the ground was completely saturated, the EA said. Hundreds of flood warnings and alerts were in place across England and Wales on Friday evening. The UK's Health Security Agency, the UKHSA, issued a cold weather alert from Saturday. This winter's National Audit Office revealed that a number of properties to receive better protections from flooding by 2027 have been cut by 40%. So from 40%, and 500 of the 2,000 new flood defence projects have been abandoned. More flood defence projects have been abandoned as well, guys. The Prime Minister was booed on Friday as he left the cafe in Stockport after talking to activists and marginal Tory Lib Dem constituencies of Hazel Grove. They heckled him called on him to resign, although not necessarily because of his handling the floods, but Sunak and City's government had a grip on the flooding after Labour said it would convene a Cobra-style flood resilience task force to help protect vulnerable areas. Again, I'm pleased that they are talking about having some kind of task force to deal with floodings, which I'm pleased with, but that doesn't advocate from past things, which I will get into shortly. With Sir Keir Starmer vowing to make flood defences fit for purpose. It was not about extra money, but ensuring the budget already committed to flooding defences is used to maximum effect, said Labour. Sunak rejected criticism, saying the Environment Agency have people in the ground everywhere, absolutely recognises the urgency of what is happening, and they are responding appropriately with all due haste. He ignored calls from the Liberal Democrats to visit flood-hit areas himself, but sent his junior Environment Minister, Robert Moore, to Nottingham, where many properties in the River Trent was evacuated. Moore told EA reporters was working incredibly hard and that the government was spending $5.2 billion over the next cycle to better protect homes that have been impacted by those consequences. He said local authorities could go a bit further when scrutinising planning applications by taking into account the impact of flooding. Labour said despite the government's doubling its budget for food defence, the number of properties protected from flooding would rise by a fifth. Taken by the Trent, the EA spokesperson Alex McDonald said, "We are feeling the effects of climate change in the East Midlands. As a nation, we need to be more resilient to flooding." This week, The Guardian and Greenpeace reported the proportions of vital flood defences in disrepair had almost trebled in the West Midlands and the east of England since 2018, leaving thousands of homes and businesses more vulnerable to the storms. Councillor Paul Taylor, the portfolio holder for the public protections at Newark and Shropshire District Council, said massive investment was needed in flood protections, but the immediate priority was helping and protecting local people. He said some villages are cut off. We're finding that we are having to help people get medication because they can't get out of their villages, a whole range of things. This is the third time in as many months that we've had issues with flooding. Train routes were also affected by the deluge. Great Western Railway said several lines remain closed because of flooding between Swindon and Bristol Parkway, Reading and Castle Kerry, and Listrick and Lowell in Cornwall. Flooding closed in many local roads, especially in west of England, while on major road networks, the A421 in Bedfordshire, the M1 motorway, the A6 on Friday. Yeah, I get a point there, really. The highest rainfall total on Thursday was 35.2 millimetres in Otterbourne in Hampshire. Again, more devastation here. Joint statement on Friday, the Shadow Cabinet Office, Pat McVane, and the Shadow Environment Secretary Steve Reed said ministers had ignored the warning from the National Audit Office in November, saying that the government was failing to deliver its commitments to better protecting homes against flooding. I agree, but we'll come to Labour's shouldn't go away. He wrote that Rishi Sunak had been asleep at the wheel and must act now or risk further damage to lives and livelihoods. This is not about extra money, this is about ensuring budget has already committed to flood defences and used to maximum effect. If that doesn't happen, homes across the country will remain exposed. The EA said significant flooding river impacts were expected on Saturday across parts of the Midlands and the River Trent in Gloucestershire, with 250 flood warnings in place across much of the Midlands and south of England. He said areas of the southwest on River Avon would also be infected, adding that continuing impacts were likely across much of England over the next 5 days because the ground was completely saturated. In EA data showed almost every river in England was exceptionally high, with some rivers reaching the highest flow on record, such as the River Itchen in Southampton, which saw the flow doubled in the previous record in December. The UK's Health Security Agency issued a yellow cold weather alert from 9 AM on Saturday until 12 PM on the 12th of January. One expert said the UK should expect more wet winters due to the climate change. Yes, climate change is a factor in all this. I'm not going to argue that. Dr. Emily Wallace, a Met Office fellow in climate extremes, said in the future climate projections in the UK indicate there is a great risk of heavy precipitation and prolonged events in the future, particularly during winter. Right, so what's my gripe, guys? So I'm going to show you, I don't know if I can bring this up here. Yeah, right, so I respond. So Byline Times put out a tweet basically saying on the 7th of January, basically saying the tweet says 2 months ago nearly 6 million homes at flooding and risk of that. So Byline Times had tweeted this out, basically saying that. This was my response, and it definitely riled some Labour fanatics up. I said the warning signs were always there, and this is both past Conservative and Labour government's failure to ensure protections and defences from homes, communities and so on. Decades on, and this is still an issue, ? Unacceptable. So why did I say that, guys? Well, this is this here I'm about to show you. I'm going to put it in. I'm going to take my I don't know if I can do it from there. Right, so this is an article from The Guardian. Oh, not an article from The Guardian, but this was the floods of 2000. Was climate change the break? So this is in 2000, guys, yeah? I want you to look at these pictures, okay? This is in 2000, okay? This is not from 2010. This is from 2000, okay? These are happening, yeah? All right. Now, I want you to show, yeah, because I want to make a very, very important point here, okay? Yeah, this is all in 2000, yeah? Right. This is in 2007. This is from the BBC here. Yeah. Yep. This was Tensway Abbey becoming a defining image of the 2007 floods here. Okay. Yep. This is 2007. Yeah. Take note of the years that I'm putting this in. Yeah. The summer of 2007 was the wettest on record, with a 404 mm of rainfall across England and Wales from May to June. Okay. And again, you know that one. What is and then I know you can't read this here, guys, but I'm just gonna. But there's a 2001. There was a warning here on this on that timeline as well, saying, I can't show you it particular, but basically what it says there, it says 2001, the UK is braced for more floodings. Towns and villages in Essex are being kept on flood alerts as forecasters predict more torrential downpours than expected. So why am I showing you floodings back from 2000, 2007? Why am I showing you that? Well, I'm showing you them because floodings have always been happening. Long before the Conservatives have been in power, before 2010. That is my point. My point is that yes, there is absolutely no one is debating, and I'm not arguing the point about the cuts and the devastating and the cutbacks that the Conservatives have made in 2010 to now. No, I'm not debating that. That's not my argument, okay? And that's not the point of my tweet either. The point of my tweet is that, yeah, while it's all well and good burying Conservatives 6 feet under for their last 14 years of power, and rightly so, where the hell were Labour when the floodings were happening under their watch? What were they doing when this was happening? That's my point, yeah? Look at these pictures, yeah? This was under Labour. This was under Labour. This wasn't under the Conservatives here. So how are you gonna pin the Conservatives on that one, for example? My point is not this, and yes, climate change has had an impact on this as well. And I'm not going to argue with the impact of climate change and the change that is coming. And my point is, both the Conservatives and Labour have failed in decades of not dealing with the floodings in this country, and they have not been putting up the necessary resources and fundings to protect these homes and villages and communities. That is my point. That is the point of my tweet. That is the point that I'm making to you. Yeah, no doubt that the Conservatives definitely deserve all the goddamn criticism in the world for what they've done in the last 13 years and the cutbacks on defences as well. But that doesn't mean that Labour should be given a free pass for the floodings that have taken place under their watch either. They need to take their bare share of responsibility here. Yeah? These people's lives have consistently been devastated by floodings. Consistently. And it didn't matter which government was in power. They've not been getting enough support and help from the government. That's the reality of this. That is the reality of what these people are consistently having to go through all the time. They love where they live, they love the lives, they love the areas and the communities that they are a part of. But they're sick and tired of constantly having these floodings and these homes and communities consistently destroyed by these floodings. What is happening here? Why is this happening? What is being done about this? And it's all well and good saying, okay, it's great that that the Conservatives are going to get kicked out, and Labour are promising to reinvest the money back in. Again, it's all nice and well and talk, but is it really going to stop these floodings? Are they serious about stopping these floodings? Because they were happening under a previous Labour government's watch, and that's my argument here. Because right now, I don't trust either governments to ensure that they're going to make sure that these homes are going to be saved, that these communities, these towns, these villages, these transportation networks that we have are going to be ensured they're going to be looked after. What are they doing to make sure of that? That's the thing that really grinds my gears. When people have started saying that Labour have had nothing to do with this. Excuse me, I've just pointed out several points where floodings have taken place under their watch here. And yes, 14 years is a long time since Labour have been in government. I'm not debating that. But my point is that we should not forget what Labour's failures were under their watch when it comes to these floodings as well, and how quickly and responsive they were as well. And it's really important to make that point, guys. Again, I understand, and I know some people are going to come at me, because they think, that I'm trying to paint the Conservatives and Labour as the same thing. That's not my point. My point is not about that. My point is about what is being done to protect. I don't care in this video on this topic about flooding, right? My point is, what are the political parties doing to make sure that these floodings stop? To make sure that these homes are safe, to make sure these communities are okay, to make sure that lives are not affected by these devastating floodings. That is my point. Yeah, doesn't matter if you're red or blue. That's not the point. The point is what's being done about it. So what do you guys honestly think? Do you honestly think that Labour have had absolutely nothing to do with any of the floodings over the last decades? Because I've showed evidence there. Is that not enough, or do I need to show more to make my points? Let me know what you honestly think in the comment section down below. Is it enough that Rishi Sunak should be just buried 6 feet under the Conservatives? Do you think Keir Starmer is serious about dealing with these floodings? Because the last Labour government didn't do enough, in my opinion. But you might disagree. Share your thoughts in the comment section down below. While you're here, hit the like button while you're here. Share it across social media and hit the bell notification icon so you'll be notified when I upload another video. And if you want to financially support me, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member or joining me on Patreon. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.